Right. Welcome everyone. So start by doing the fire evacuation procedures. There are no fire alarms scheduled. Therefore, if the fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the building immediately. The fire exit is located at the side of this room. Exit through reception and meet in the War Memorial Park. And this meeting is being webcast live on the internet and will be available to view on YouTube after the meeting. And please switch your phones off or onto silent. Right, so welcome everyone. First item, apologies for absence and substitutions. Camilla Proctor, one of the other ISAs, has given her apologies for this meeting, and she is also standing down as of the end of this month. And Paul Mahoney, Councillor Paul Mahoney, has resigned from this committee as of immediate effect. Right, moving on, appointment of Vice Chair. So we need to appoint a Vice Chair, so I'd ask for nominations for a Vice Chair and a seconder, and it has to be a Borough Councillor. Any nominations? Is that agreed?
Yeah. I think I knew one who's been on this before.
Right.
Sorry. I'll put my credential on the
Right, right, and in that case, welcome Vice Chair. We don't have to actually have a formal vote or anything, do we? No, agreed. Right, are there any declarations of interest? And item 4, urgent matters. Are there any urgent matters? So move on to item 5, the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of March. Are the committee happy that the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of March 2023 are an accurate record? Agreed? Great. I agree as well, so I'll just quickly sign them. So next we have the annual report.
Thank you, Chair. This is just bringing back, committee previously considered this in March but requested a few amendments. So I was just bringing it back for final approval before it goes to Council in July for noting. So if there are any other comments, I can incorporate those. Otherwise, this is the final version.
We'll move to accept them. They accepted the amendments that we put forward at the last meeting. I would like to move that we accept them. These are exactly as we agreed at the meeting last time. I think it was only Martin and I were present, but I'm happy to say that these are in line with what we said, and obviously the amendments in red. Apologies. I forget we're on webcam.
So the recommendations are to approve the annual report as amended and recommend presentation of the annual report to the Council for consideration. So everyone agreed? Excellent.
Thank you, Chair. It's the usual update to complaints report. As you can see, again, it's touching every bit of wood. It's been still quite quiet, very quiet in fact. We've only had one inquiry since the last meeting, which no formal complaint form was received, and in addition the matter referred to comments made by a councillor in their private life, not in their role as councillor. Therefore, it wouldn't have been covered by the Code of Conduct in any event. So that's just the one matter so far.
Right. Any questions or any other comments? In that case, recommendation to note the progress made and the learning derived from the consideration of complaints. Right.
So moving on, at the last meeting in March, we had a report to approve and a recommendation, a decision by the committee to approve recruitment of 2 independent persons and 3 independent standards assessors. Since that meeting, as we've heard, Camilla Proctor has resigned as an independent standards assessor, but she was already included in that new recruitment because her term was coming to an end at the end of the year in any event. So I've put down the current timetable for recruitment. The advert has gone out on the council website. It will go out in the Basingstoke Gazette as it is required to do legally this week. And I intend sending the link to all the parish and town council clerks as well, just in case they know of people who might be interested in applying. The other matter is that, as you see, Verity Morricane is back in chair. This is because Miss Orchard didn't feel able to chair this committee this round, and therefore Verity's term comes to an end at the end of December, in which we won't have a chair for the committee if it past December, unless we ask the council just to approve a short 4-month extension to her appointment, just to get us through the rest of the municipal year. That I'm just asking to see whether you recommend that. Ultimately, it's a council decision whether that term is agreed to.
Can I move that we do recommend to council that you extend your chairmanship? As you say, we can't manage the committee without a chairman, and despite the fact we haven't had many complaints, touch wood, you know that as soon as we haven't got a chairman, these things will kick off. So let's make sure we've got a chairman in post.
Any other questions or comments?
I referenced the panel. Obviously, it's got to be 2 borough councillors and the parish or town council. And I've noticed you've got week commencing the 3rd of July as a potential for the interviews. We've now got 2 parish and town councils vacancies as well. I know we don't now interview them, which I think is a bit of a backward step, because we used to. I had to go through about 4 interviews, I think, to get one here from town and parishes. But obviously, if there are people interested, it might be through the town and parish council. It might be that at the same time we could ask people if they were interested in that, and maybe if Basingstoke are going to nominate people, it might be interesting. You put a rider into clerks that we do it at the same time.
Sorry, to interview representatives for the committee.
Sorry, when you said you will put a note out to town and parish clerks about the recruitment we've currently got. But
for the vacancy.
Opportunity to add to that, but we've also. And maybe whoever is going to contact whoever is the lead for Basingstoke, obviously with Paul going. I don't know whether Martin's going to stand in the team or whether you've got a secretary for them to contact if they're interested in being a parish rep as well.
Thank you. The contact will be me through the Basingstoke District Association Parish and Town Council's website. So.
Any other comments, questions? I'd just add repeat what I said last meeting, that if there's anything that I can do to try and enthuse people with what is actually quite an interesting role. Yep. Right. In that case, so the recommendations are to note the timetable for the recruitment of 2 independent persons and 3 independent standards assessors, and 2, to recommend to Council that Verity Markin's term as an independent standards assessor be extended for 4 months from the 1st of January 2024, in order that she can continue to be chair of the Standards Committee until the end of the municipal year. Right. And good luck and I hope successful. Right.
So now on to item 9, just a report on Code of Conduct Learning and Development Programme. There was quite a bit of discussion at the last meeting about plans for the training, especially in relation to parishes. So in the report, I've indicated that I'll be putting on some code of conduct training for borough councillors. I think it's in a couple of weeks' time, and if anybody wants a follow-up session, I can accommodate that. I've also referred to in the report, because it might not be known to everybody, that the National Association for Local Councils and others have launched a civility and respect project for the parish and town councils, and asked them to take a pledge that they'll treat councillors, clerks, employees and members of the public with courtesy and respect. As part of that project, I was looking at their website. It's a very good website. They've actually got some e-learning modules on that website for parish and town councils to take part in. But in addition, what I'm proposing is that myself and the Deputy Monitoring Officer put on a remote learning session or 2 for the parish and town councils, see if there's an interest in that. And if a parish or town council is having particular challenges, I'm quite happy to consider going out in person and doing some training for the council. So that was my proposal. Obviously, people here are interested in it, and I welcome your comments on whether you think this is the right approach. I've also discovered today, actually, that the LGA, Local Government Association, also have an e-learning suite of courses for councillors, all councillors, and one of those was Code of Conduct as well. So I'm trying to log into it when it accepts my password, so I can see what it entails, and then I'll send that round to councillors in as well, so they're aware that if they can't attend my training, then at least they can do the e-learning one instead. So I welcome any comments about the proposals.
Yeah, any comments or questions?
Yes. I pressed it. Is it on? Yeah. Yes, we do need to train everybody. We've said that at the last meeting. Town and parishes are now apparently signing up for our code of conduct in more numbers than previously, and it is important that they understand what they need to do, and why it's important that we do have a code of conduct, and how that protects them and the officers and anyone else in the public domain as well. It sometimes can be seen to be a, should I say the word, boring issue, and people don't see it as important. But I can tell you that if you've ever been on a council that has struggled to deal with people who can't behave themselves, it is very good to know that you've got somewhere where you can go independently to come and have a look at what's happening and hopefully try and get things sorted out. We have been fortunate over the last year or so that some of the parishes that might have had problems before have seemed to have settled down, maybe change of personnel, but I can assure you it will come back again somewhere before long, because it does happen and it goes in cycles. So I think it's important that we offer it and see whether people will take it up or not.
Really, my question is, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for identifying that there are e-learning modules. We need to be certain that if people undertake e-learning modules, that it is recorded in some way. Is that recording something that the borough will undertake for the parish and town council's records?
Well, I could try. I think it's quite a daunting task to do that. I don't think I can get onto the NALC training, but I can certainly, my plan in the LGA training is to go through the course if I can get on it, and then see, because sometimes they do a certificate of completion or something at the end of it, in which case it'd be a lot easier if people just send in their certificates to me and we can keep a record. But I don't think I have access to the NALC ones in my position, so I don't know if somebody else who can look at that and see if that's an option, or I can contact NALC themselves and see if there's a way of recording who's done it.
Thank you. I was wondering whether, in fact, the parish and town councillors report their declarations of interest, and that is recorded by the borough for all parish and town councillors, whether completion of code of conduct training could be recorded within that same department, that same programme. It would seem logical. And my follow-up question is, how soon do you think you'll be able to do the training, both the in-person, I think you were going to try and do that as a sample with Borkhurst, and to do it with the online version?
So I think our software, it's called mod.gov software, does have the facility to record councillors' training that they've attended, so that is possible. I was going to do something for July, was my first online session. That was what I was proposing, and then if anybody actually wants us to come in person, we just need to agree a convenient date for that. But I was going to send out, following this meeting, I'll send an email out to the parish clerks about what training they think they'd like, or if people will be interested in it. Unless you think, because I think there was a discussion at one of the other meetings about it probably should go to the chairman as well of the councils and not just rely on the clerks, if you think that's worth doing still.
Yes, I think that sending the information to the chairman as well as the clerks is vital. I think we also ought to remember that parish and town councils often meet on a monthly basis, and so making available the information would need to be presented to a council meeting for the council to ratify the action of councillors attending. And it would be also very helpful if the fact that it would be recorded as to whether councillors had undergone the training in exactly the same way as it works for borough councillors.
If it's online, I can do that. I can see who's attended, so we can do an attendance for that. If they're doing any of the online modules, then the e-learning modules, then that might be not quite as easy. But so sorry, asking a question. I shouldn't ask a question. So you're saying that the councils need to make a decision at a council meeting to undertake the training, or?
Yes, I think that's true. In order to encourage and to make it mandatory that the organisation of the parish or the town council stipulates that code of conduct training is required by the council, and that the delivery of that is within your programme. If you just send out an invitation that says, hey guys, would you like to come and have some training? I think our attendance will be very low. So I think it's a really important message to get across as to the importance of the training, that all parish and town councillors should have code of conduct training. And those who had it a million years ago almost certainly need updating. So it's not a question, I've had it before at some stage that I know all about it. We've really got to make it quite clear that the code of conduct training is current and all councillors need to undergo that. And that needs to be ratified by each council, where we need this sort of probably a 6-week cycle before you have the meetings. So I think it's very often consultation between district and parishes seems to miss the fact that there is this 6-week period that really is needed for notification.
Thank you, Chair. My question is slightly going off piece a little bit in my typical way, but I was wondering about where you, certainly within the LGA and things, they talk about doing development for future councillors. Is there anything that we could put that into the sort of development programme because that's something that's recommended, isn't it, to encourage people to come forward? I know this is more specifically focusing on the code of conduct and all that sort of thing, but obviously having some sort of idea about what being councillor is and what you can expect, and then tying in with this as a potential offering from the council and sort of bringing that into the general development programme might be useful. I know it's probably not really quite the right place to say this, but it's just something that popped into my head and I thought, well, while it's there, before I lose it.
I probably need to think that through, because there's a Be a Councillor campaign, isn't there? I don't think, because I haven't been here that long, I don't think we've participated or done much of that work recently. So we need to look at it again, I think, to encourage representation.
I notice on here you're saying that at least half of the parish and town councils have now signed up to the code of conduct. Would it not make sense to actually make those councils that have signed up to it do Basingstoke and Dean's code of conduct training?
It will be very similar. I think there's different guidance for the parish and town councils. They've tailored it. They've given some separate guidance on the code of conduct for parish and town councillors to try and tailor it more to the needs. So I just wondered whether it'd be easier to do a scaled down version, but a bit more tailored to what parishes need than what I do for the boroughs, really, because it's different considerations possibly. So, for example, like taking planning decisions and sort of planning committees and licensing committees, which are more definitely borough related. I think, to my mind, I thought it'd be better if I tailored it more for the parish and towns.
Work. It's only a matter of accuracy. Somewhere in the paper, I can't find it now, you mentioned chairman or chairwoman. There is no such thing. It is either a chairman or a chairman or a chairman. It's a position on town and parish councils. It's good enough for men, it's good enough for women.
Sorry, I think Linda missed that Fiona has been scheduling this development of a programme on code of conduct specifically to parish and town councillors for a few months now. So therefore this committee had agreed middle of last year that the training would be specific to parish and town councils and specific to the Basingstoke templated code of conduct, because that is now adopted by half the councils. So I think it's important we don't forget that the training that you've been planning will be, and we as a committee have agreed that it will be.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
Sorry, it's rather boring. It's me again. I was quite surprised recently to find that our recently co-opted parish councillors in their training hadn't come across the Nolan principles. So a lot of the code of conduct is actually built on Nolan principles, and if you're not aware of the Nolan principles, then I think we're seeing quite a number of newer councillors who need to sort of understand the basic principles of the ways in which we operate. And the second point on that one, sorry, is that the programme that we have to try and get parish councils to sign up to the Basingstoke template of code of conduct is something that we mustn't forget, and we need to make sure that we renew our efforts to get the councils to do so. The training was the cherry that was being offered. We don't have any sticks.
That's a very good point about the Nolan principles. People need to understand the basic bedrock before they can understand anything else. Yeah. Right. Any other comments or questions? In which case, I will read out the recommendations. It's recommended that the committee note the contents of the report and provide the monitoring officer with views, particularly in relation to training provision proposed in paragraphs 3.2 and 3.3. Happy with that? Great. Right, so we come on to review of the work programme.
So at the moment for November, obviously I can do an update on the recruitment of independent persons and independent standards assessors, and an update on how the code of conduct training has gone. I don't have any other items at the moment.
Does anyone else have any ideas for things that we should or could add into the work programme?
Can I ask if there's any review of the background to standards? Is anyone planning to do any further reviews? I know that the LGA did one quite recently. Are we aware of, I know there were a number of things that we were waiting for government to come back with some solutions. Have we heard any more about whether there are going to be any definitions and help to put some of the bones on some of the things that the LGA put forward?
I presented a report last year which gave the formal government response to the recommendations, and there were a few matters which they were going away to think about. Haven't heard anything since. I do have a monitoring officers meeting with DLUC in the next 2 or 3 weeks where they will update us on what's going on in the government at the moment. So hopefully if there's anything comes out of that, I'll update the committee.
Sorry, it was just to ask, has the code of conduct training for borough councillors completed for this new influx?
Sorry, no, the first session's on the 22nd of June.
Yeah, if anyone does have any ideas of things that we think we should have on the work programme, yeah, jot them down for next meeting. Right, so moving on, exclusion of press and public, and are there any confidential matters? Yeah. In which case, thank you for coming, and we'll all go back out into the heat.